if you want a recording of this, by the way, you can have it. So I'll send it to you. Let me know if you have any questions right now about the process of being a volunteer generally. So anything that's come up for you since we've started or that you want a refresher on.
I think one thing about being a volunteer, especially virtually, and I don't really know if this is a question,
Yeah.
and this is something that I mentioned this because I was late to reach out kind of with my dance partners,
Yeah.
which was majority my like I'll take responsibility for that. But I think just finding new ways to connect with patients is something um, that we could all kind of use assistance with and stuff like that. And if there's any like opportunities to expand in that area, I'm absolutely all ears
Great.
because I think
That's
that's one of the most valuable things about volunteering is just being able to experience
yes.
clientele and other
Yeah,
people.
and I think going into this new class, it's going to be, you'll have more opportunity for that. Because
Right.
so Jake and Jonathan joined partway through this class, so it was kind of already rolling. So, and then Rose, you joined me on one orientation,
Mhm.
right? So this will be an opportunity for sure to talk directly to people and kind of engage and start to form those relationships. And when if we can get outside, I think it's going to be really great.
Hmm.
That'll be so much easier. So I think the the between sessions times, maybe what you can do, maybe what I would recommend, and if you would like to do this, I think it'll be super helpful. We're always trying to focus on how can we help people form new habits. They're showing up, so that says something about their motivation, right? So we can kind of assume that they'd like to keep being active if nothing else. And this particular class is the first time we're going to do next steps, which we called it, which is kind of a beginner intermediate. So for people who aren't absolute beginners or don't need a lot of assistance, so we can do a little bit more. So I'm thinking hopefully these people will be really motivated. But for anybody who might want a little extra, like, how do I get my 3 hours total in, per week? Or how do I stay more active? Or how do I do stuff in between times? Might be kind of cool. So when you reach out to them in between and just check in, instead of just sending an email or a text, maybe just say, hey, let's do a little quick video chat or something, whether it's FaceTime on your phone or Zoom or something, and say, let's set a time that we can, review one thing. So take that initiative if you feel like you want to. You don't have to, because we always want to make this really comfortable for you, but also we want you to push your boundaries in this safe, what we hope is a safe and supported environment, and really stretch your skills, maybe get better at it, like you're indicating, Jake. Like, how can I get better at the interpersonal stuff? Obviously you're good at it already, but this is great telehealth experience, and like maybe get good at watching people on the screen and giving them tips and kind of quickly saying, hey, that's great, and giving them feedback. So maybe what we can do is kind of maybe pair you with people who would be really interested in doing a little 10-15 minute video check-in or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And basically feeding off their motivation is what you
Yeah,
were saying.
yeah, I like
Cool.
that idea. So any other thoughts along those lines? So we can play around with what that looks like, and you could help us learn, like, maybe we need to be doing more of this stuff generally, So um, we've always grown the program because of what you bring. So don't forget, we don't know everything, and things don't, everything in the world is not already in the world. You bring it, you create new things.
Right, right.
Not every dance that it's ever going to be has happened yet, because you'll bring something new. Not every discipline is out there because you haven't brought your ideas to it. So bring your ideas. We'll and hopefully we can give you something
Yeah,
for it.
absolutely.
So I'm gonna share my screen with y'all. So
That does make me think of one question, Susan.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, when we're with a partner in the room virtually,
Yeah.
um, I guess I was just gonna say that I never really want to vocalize anything because everyone, it's not directly to my partner. And maybe I just missed something, but is there a way, are people communicating directly with their partner during sessions or no?
Not right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've just been playing around with it. But if you have ideas, we had
Yeah.
thought, do we ever want to do a breakout or anything? Probably not, because there's not that much time. Because by the time you leave and come back,
Yeah.
you could set up a chat if you wanted to during, like, if you partner with your dance partners and you're like, hey, during class, during a water break, if you want, is it okay if we send each other notes? You could ask them that, and that would be something for sure. Because by now, many people have had experience and would probably be fairly comfortable with that. But that's a great idea. One thing is, if you notice your dance partners as you kind of eyeball them during class, enjoy and dance, of course, but your main job is to kind of make sure they are being supported. And get what they need. And if they're like, hey, or if you notice they're doing something really strange or it looks like they might hurt themselves, like I was watching somebody the other night really bent over. And I'm like, how could I bring this up in a way that, would be general for the whole group? So you can do stuff like that and pop in next time breaks like, hey, I noticed, or I found it helpful that, and just kind of speak generally and not to a particular thing.
Yeah.
Something that somebody's doing that might be helpful for everybody.
Yeah. Is there a way that this would more be just sort of like check-in or encouragement, but is there a way that you can communicate vocally directly to your partner without necessarily interrupting the class?
Not that I'm aware of. Do you guys know?
You can like direct like chat them.
Yeah, that's all I know too is chat.
But that would not be audio, right? That would be in text. Yeah. Okay.
Unless you're in a breakout room together, that's the only way I know.
Cool.
Yeah. But I have not yet learned. We're gonna do WebEx soon for the conference that we're doing coming up. So if I find out there's any other medium that would work that way, you could, however, phone. Say have your phone handy. That would be something. But yeah, so trying to figure out a way to make sure you're bonded and communicating easily. So one thing that we will do, and this is just as a reminder, is when we pair you up with somebody, we'll share your email and phone number with them and theirs with you. And you will, that'll be your dance partner. If you're ever not able to come to class, we'll distribute the responsibility among the rest of us, So we might take on somebody else's partners for a day or whatever. And those will be your people to check in between classes with, and then those will be your main partner during class. So yeah. So is that still okay with you? And it looks like we'll have 8 people. So if it's the 4 of us, we can kind of divvy them up too. So 2 people per. I am going to just show you did I answer your questions so far?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to share with you and I gave you all access, and Rose, for some reason, I just sent you access to our whole drive of curriculum. For some reason, I didn't have your permission to access this whole thing. So you should now have access to this whole folder.
Yeah, I have that.
And I think you had access to pieces and parts of it before, but maybe not the whole folder. We've been reworking it for our upcoming conference and the new trainings we're going to be doing for new instructors. So we might be moving some subfolders and things around a little bit, but this main will still stay the same. So just a couple things to point out for you. The virtual class resources right here. We'll have a couple things in it. And then the rest of it, I think I've pointed out to you, so I'm not going to beat this up. But right here is what we want to focus on for today for the virtual orientation. I'm going to pop over. I have a second drive that is a HIPAA compliant drive, which is where it's a whole different account that I have. And that's where I house all the registration forms, the forms you fill out, because it's people's personal information. So it's in a separate place altogether. And I gave you access to the anyhow, so I'll send out an initial email to them and just say, hey, we're ready to go. You're going to be contacted by your orientation person to set up a time. The people who've taken the class before don't need an orientation. So what I may do, Rose, is give you one person you know and one person who needs an orientation.
Okay.
So we don't need to orient all of those people. We probably only need to orient 4 of them at the most. So we could each take one. So that might be a little easier for us to do. So we just want to get it done before April the 7th. So you would be able to then coordinate with them directly. The other thing, though, is the people who have taken the class before, the only thing we need to do is maybe we can divvy them up and do the 30-second chair stand test together. So we've all done that together in the past, right? So we've all reviewed that. Do you have any questions about that specific test? Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was just going to say that I haven't seen it demonstrated yet, but I know we're going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the videos and but like I haven't seen us like ballroom basics do it yet, but I know we're going to see it next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the key is you can really just go by the script, and really, demonstrate it for them once. My tip is to have them sit sideways and have everybody sit sideways so you can watch their form. So, for example, can you see me well enough? Or should I stop sharing the screen? Okay. So having them, make sure they have a sturdy chair. That's key. Make sure that if it's not sturdy, it's backed up against a wall or something. So if they sit in it, it doesn't tip over. That's really, and it doesn't have wheels on it. So we want them to stand at the chair, but you actually start sitting. Their arms are not allowed to be used. That's the big one. And then we demonstrate it, and they have to stand all the way up. They can't come to here. That's the key. So if you notice that happening while they're doing the test, give them one verbal cue and say, stand up all the way, and then let them keep going. And if they can't seem to do it, just start it over again. Other than that, they just go up and down as many times as they can, as fast as they can in 30 seconds. But they have to go all the way up, and they have to touch their butt to the chair. They could do this and pop right back up. That's fine. So that's the main thing with that test. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The nice thing is, and what we love for you to do is explain the why. Like, why are we doing it? So what's your understanding of why a standing up and sitting down test would be relevant to falls prevention and falls risk? Anyone?
Yeah.
An assessment of strength and stability can be correlated to balance and things like that.
Yep, and it's specific lower body strength. So one of the things you'll find when you're going through in rehab, and really independence, anybody trying to keep their independence or to regain their independence, lower body strength is so crucial. Upper body strength is really important, but being able to navigate the world with as little help of your arms as possible is a real key. So what we always try to do is have people use their hands for safety as little as possible. So yes, safety, but not to rely on them for their main support, trying to make it their legs, because leg strength is so important. And this is a really good test of leg strength. So while it doesn't screen for everything, like we're not doing any dynamic movement, we're not walking back and forth, we're not turning around. That's what we do in our in-person classes. We do different screenings, but this one we figured we could pull it off virtually and it would still be somewhat relevant. And so what we'll do is record their, let me just open this for you. So the virtual class resources, this is what you're going to use. There's a PDF and a Word document in here for each. So the 2 documents you want are this orientation checklist, and then this is just other notes about your role as a partner. And if you have had a chance to look at that, it really just fleshes out the rest of what your role could be as an assistant instructor. So participant, I don't know what that, why is there funny? So basically, you know, talking in between classes, observing them in class. We've talked about all these things, so I'm not gonna read through this whole thing, but this is here for you in case you have any questions. You know, just basically have their emergency contact handy, you know, which is listed in that document I showed you earlier. Make a note of who their contact is just in case we need to alert anybody of an emergency. I will also have all of that handy, so you don't need to be the primary person responsible. You know, and these are things, what you can do is just, you know, ways to encourage people to stay healthy and safe, you know, and have a fun class. So that's just all that is. The orientation checklist is the main thing you're going to use for the appointment. So what you'll do is once we pair you up with somebody, and I'll introduce you by email, if that's okay. And then you guys can decide how you want to connect, whether it's by phone, by email, whatever, to set up a virtual appointment. We need for you to be able to meet them virtually. So is there anybody here who cannot do that? I mean, you all are logging in now, so I'm assuming this will be okay. And you don't need to go more, you know, you don't need to go more than 40 minutes, I think. So the free Zoom's account should work pretty well. We're going to use Zoom for class, so we want to orient them to Zoom. So this checklist is really, it's 11 pages. Don't be scared. It's 11 pages because we spread things out to make it checklistable. So what you could do is you could print this out if you want to. You could leave it online. You don't need to give it to us when you complete it. Just let us know that it's complete. Let us know if there are any questions or concerns or issues or anything. And when I say us, I guess I mean me. So this is just, it's just to be thorough. So that's why it's 11 pages, so don't panic. But you can use this just to walk right through the appointment with them. A couple of main pieces I want to pull out. We would love your feedback on the document if it feels like, hey, it would be better if it were like this, or I think, you know, this is, oh, you know, anyway, too much of something, not enough of anything. We would love your feedback. We've already made changes. So this is the quick. Make sure you introduce yourself. Check a box off when it's done, just so you know it's done. Ensure that they've understood, you know, and agree to what we're going through. Use notes for yourself or just to communicate back with us. And then if there are any issues that they're going to have, let us know in advance. Like if they tell you, well, sometimes I get short of breath with blah, 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 or my left ankle hurts if I do X, Y, or Z, you know, just let us know and we'll try to accommodate them. Or if they have any real concerns, for sure, just come back to me and let me know. And if you have any ideas of how we can make it better for them, that'd be great. And then let us know when it's all done. I will also send them the falls efficacy screen that they will do before and after as well. That's the fear of falling survey that we give them, and it takes no time at all. So I'll make sure I do that part of it. I do want to know what score they get on their 30-second chair stand test so that I can record it, because those are stats that we keep to see, you know, just how people are doing. And we also use it so that at the end of class, we will send them their end of class scores along with their beginning of class scores. And the main reason that we capture this information is, one, to help them know where they are. You know, if they're doing great, let's help keep you there. If they need if they're borderline, hey, let's see if we can bump you up just a little bit, you know. If they're not doing good at all, okay, how can we get you a little bit, you know, more? So that's the real reason for capturing this information. We also just keep it, you know, because we can look at it over time and see if there are any trends or anything like that. And then just find a way to wrap up the session. So that's kind of the overview of it. And then here's the quick checklist of what is in the whole checklist. So we do environment, attendance. We talk to them, you know, just about the class generally. Make sure we get their consent. And this is because they're filling out an online form, that says, yes, I give my consent and I waive, blah, blah, blah. But how do we know? So we want to get a face-to-face. Yeah, that was me that filled out that form. Yes, I'm good. So we just kind of doubled that up. And that takes 2 seconds, and usually people are fine. Technology is sort of maybe the bigger piece of it, although again, I think people are a little more savvy now, so that shouldn't take too much time. And then we do the test, and the falls efficacy scale you don't have to worry about. So far, so good? Yeah, Jonathan.
I was just wondering regarding the technology component. There was a section there about like headsets and things, and I noticed that in our class, instructors are wearing headsets, but for the most part, I think I feel like I can hear everybody. Have you? Yeah. What did you think about?
I don't think it's necessary, but it's nice if you want to point it out to somebody if they've never thought about it before, and if their hearing maybe isn't the greatest and they want to stand really far away or something. Like Barb and Jane are standing pretty far away because they have cast their Zoom onto their TV screen. So it might make it in that kind of a scenario if they have a headset. And if they do and want to try it, then you could kind of have that conversation with them. Of course, you don't want a wired headset, though. That's the thing. So that would be a little scary. But yeah,
I guess my other question was just like, is it the kind of thing that we could kind of help them assess in that moment? Like, I can hear you fine, or like, if we're not hearing them, would we want to make that recommendation?
It probably would be more of them hearing us. That would be the benefit.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, if we can't hear them, we'll just say, speak louder. But if they do want a better experience of hearing the class, they may not have even thought that that was an option. The downside right now is finding supply is so backed up.
Oh,
and
really?
now with that ship stuck in the Suez Canal, who knows what's going on. So any other thoughts or questions? Great questions, by the way. Thank you for looking over it. Okay, so, and here's the thing with the introduction, it's really a good idea. It'll save you time and them time if you ask them, what do you already know? What's your experience? Ask them an open-ended question about technology, about Zoom in particular, about classes. Just say, hey, what's your experience being on Zoom? What's your experience with technology? Are you comfortable? Tell me a little bit about any other classes you've taken. That way you'll get a sense of it, and that way you'll know how quickly you can go through things, or if you need to spend more time on an area. So that's what I'd recommend. It'll save you tons of time, and it'll help you kind of streamline stuff. And that's just a generally good tip in life, is to kind of ask people where they are first, and then you can really focus on the stuff you need to. So that's pretty much it. And then closing up, just, thank them, whatever. It's always nice to have an open and a close. And make it yours. Make it yours. And the environmental setup is so it can be enjoyable for them and also safe. And so basically anywhere there's a little, online it doesn't show up as well. Let me go to the PDF. It just shows up a little bit better, because we made little check boxes and stuff. It doesn't translate as well in the, maybe it didn't translate as well either. Okay, anyway, so there were little boxes where the dots were, so feel free to use those as checks. So every little bullet is an area you want to make sure you know what space they're going to use. Make sure that you see it, and and really, they're expecting you to kind of lead. So feel free to say, hey, can you take this into the room you're going to be using for this, just so we can make sure it's good. You want to see it. They don't have to have a giant space, as you all very well know. You've seen people with teeny tiny spaces, and we're just going to make it work. So I think we just will. And then we just go through this whole checklist. I am not going to walk through it. Has anybody not looked at this yet? No judgment, but just want to make sure. Okay, so you've seen it. So you know what's there. you don't need to go through everything in great detail, but like if you say it's going to be a carpet-free space, you don't have to ask about carpet snags, clearly, that kind of thing. So just sort of use your judgment. Try not to skip a whole lot just because because all of it we find it was relevant when we all went. We've been through this a couple times now. Ask them, what are you going to use to touch if we really challenge your balance? What will you stand next to? Will you have a chair? Do you have like a wall or a bookcase or whatever? And footwear, barefoot is definitely okay, by the way. Yeah, Jonathan.
I just wanted to ask, if they pull out a chair that's like a folding chair.
Yep.
What do you think about, like, it's
Why don't
something.
Why don't one of you tell me what you would do with that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would kind of think that a folding chair would be like, if it seems sturdy, it might be fine. Like, but I know you said like wheels. I guess, yeah, I know like we would say a solid chair would be better.
Yep.
But a folding chair.
A folding chair is truly all they have,
Yeah.
because of where they have to put their computer, whatever, make sure it's lodged up against something so that, if they're just using it for light touch, and this is going to be a more advanced class, so, but just making sure what they have is as secure as it possibly can be. Avoid office chairs with wheels, anything that wiggles or rocks, anything unstable. So, and also we will sit down in it and we'll warm up and cool down sometimes. And so if we're transitioning, we want something that might not tip over. So just have them wedge it up against something in that case.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions? Great questions too. So surface transitions, just, little things. So just kind of go through this list before you contact them and just say, hey, I'm going to go through a list. We'll spend as much time as we need to on whatever. Make sure they know to ask you questions. If you can't answer them, say that you'll get an answer and either you or I will get back with them. Environment, their clothing, mostly stuff that we just tell everybody, make sure nothing's going to get in the way of your feet. Whether it's your own clothing, your shoes, make sure if they wear shoes that they aren't slip-on shoes or something that has a back that flaps around or whatever. And if, and ideally, tell me what you think about this. Say they have a hard floor like linoleum or wood and they have athletic shoes. What do you think about that combo, Rose?
I think it would be fine, but I don't.
What would be ideal? It would be fine, yes.
Okay, just to make sure that the soles of those shoes aren't like super worn so that there'd be any like slip risk. But other than that, I think that it would be okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts, anybody?
I was kind of going to go the other way and say, make sure the shoes aren't too sticky that it wouldn't twist their knees.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, the worn could be a problem too.
Yeah. Jake, any thoughts or no?
Yeah, I think like kind of what you guys are saying, I think it's just subjective. And I think just something that if you just ask and touch up on the client saying like, are you comfortable in these shoes? Have you worked in these shoes before?
Yep.
That's a great way to figure out if it applies to the scenario or not.
So you're all right. All three of you are correct. So ideally because we're transitioning so much, we want to make sure that sometimes, like if you're doing a little turn and pivoting on the ball of your foot, that you're not too sticky. Because if your foot sticks and your knee torques, that's not great. So if that is the shoe that they either must wear or prefer to wear, like some people have feet problems and they have shoes that they really want to wear. So if their foot to surface situation is not perfect, where there's enough friction, but it's ideal if you have a little slide but some friction too. Like I have worn out tennis shoes because they've still got a little stick but they also turn, and that's ideal. Or if they're on carpet, some shoes are too slippery on carpet, or some floors are highly polished, so you just want to kind of pick. So what we'll do is we'll talk to the behavior part of it. And if you ever looked at those key elements that we posted for you, one of the main things is the three main things you can effect in your life to enhance your balance, reduce your risk of falls, are your behavior, the environment, and your physical self. So we're working on physical stuff, but we're also kind of interested in addressing the environment you're in and your behavior in that environment. Those are all things we have control over to varying degrees. So that's why we bring these things up. So if this is your, foot to floor combo, here's how you're going to change your behavior, right? You're going to have your hand on something, or you're going to lift your foot really high when we do a turn so you don't get stuck. So just make sure you know about that they know what their options are. If they have choices, kind of walk them through that. But ideally, it has to be something they're comfortable with. So that's a really great point. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to beat it up, but you can just say, hey, and then when they come to class the first time, we can all check in and say, hey, how's it going? Are you comfortable? Whatever. So, and we can, keep working on that over time. So, encourage that they have some water with them and healthy snacks, because we're going to try to push it a little bit in this class too and bump up the dance stuff too. We'll be doing some more vigorous things than we have been even. And then just things like lighting, noise. Do you know how to address the lighting situation with people to make sure that it's as good as possible? Any questions or problems with that? Yeah, Jonathan.
Is it, I mean, just making sure that like this thing, backlighting would be closed and forelighting is brighter?
That's ideal. Yeah, Jake, what were you going to say?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say if there's like really bright light in the back, then the camera tends to focus on that light rather than the subject.
And sometimes it can be a matter of, even if their lighting isn't perfect, if you like tip the screen a little bit, it's enough to kind of downplay a certain light source or bring in a better light source, so you can kind of help them play with like the best position of their computer and the back and the front lighting, and ask them, hey, is there a lamp you can bring, whatever. We just need to generally be able to see them, and ideally, can you see their whole body for much of the time? And as you know, sometimes that's not always possible, but it's nice to be able to see as much of them as possible. Yeah. So chair, snacks, blah, 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 whatever that person needs, but encourage water. I think that's important to have that handy. Attendance, we just, ask them to come early. We let them check in 15 minutes early. What we'll do is we'll check in a little, like maybe 20 minutes early, and hang out and just wait. And we'll use that time as arriving to class, let everybody get set, check in. Kind of the social piece is really important. And Jake, that's another time where we could engage. So I would love it if any of you would like to, feel free to lead. Like if you would like to sort of like, maybe we can take, hey, you can take the arrival time this week and, maybe ask questions and check in. So that might be something fun we can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I do want to let you know though,
Yeah.
a big part of the reason why sometimes I go like either 5 to 10 minutes early rather than the full 15 is I got a class that ends right
Not a
around the
problem.
5 to 5:15.
And yeah, that's always, we will always be willing to work with you.
Right. Well, cool.
So
Thank you.
it's ideal, but it's not always possible. Yeah. Thank you for that though. It's always, so the main thing in life that makes it work is communication, I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So blah, blah, blah. So we encourage them to come early so that we can use the whole time. We would love so this is where just verify that it was them. Are you sure you agree? Did you get a chance to read it? Did you, they may have checked it without really reading it. Who knows? But normally they'll go, yeah, we're good. Technology part. We aren't going to use breakout rooms probably, so you can skip that. Talking about the device they're using. Do they know what device they're using? Do they need any help with it? Do they have a dependable connection? Make sure you encourage them to keep their device plugged in, or make sure it's really well charged beforehand. I have actually gotten caught once forgetting to have done that myself. Make sure it's propped properly. We can see them. Make sure they wear their hearing aid and their glasses if they have them. And it just, if you can hear them and see them well, you don't have to do a specific test, and just say, great, you sound good. Can you hear me? I can hear you. So do the best you can with this, you know, without needing to just beat it all up over details. And then Zoom, make sure, don't just ask them, do you know how? Have them do it. Have them pin you, have them, you know, mute and unmute themselves, and just let them know, basically wave us down if they need, you know, they need our attention. Do they have any problems understanding how to get from an invitation to a class? You will have obviously set that up at the orientation. So if they have any problems, you can probably discuss that. If they're using a phone or a tablet, it's a little bit different than using a laptop, as you may know. So if you have any questions about that yourself, because it looks different on a tablet. So to pin somebody on a tablet or a phone, you double click the image, you know, actually on the screen to pin, and then you do it again to unpin. If anybody's using a phone, let me know, because that's just kind of wacky. Hopefully not. And then, you know, tell them about the problem solving, that if you lose the connection, you can't get in, call me, etc., whatever, because that will allow us to teach the class for everybody else who's there without delaying it for somebody who's having trouble getting in. And then you do the test. So one thing to point out is there's a table here of cutoff scores. This is a cutoff score for the 30-second chair stand test. That means this is the norms. So it's actually norms for these genders and age groups. So let's say a man who's in the 70 to 74 age range, the average person who does it 15. But if you go to this link right here, it will link you to not only this, but, or I'm sorry, if you go to the actual document that you click to do the test, it has a different table in it. And we'll want to tell them both things, because this one is from the CDC directly. And this table here on the right shows 70 to 74, there's 12. So the average man, 70 to 74, does 15. But below 12 means you're at a higher risk of falls. So one is just norms and one is falls risk cutoff. And you want to just tell them both, because it's really nice. So let's say they do 13. Yay, you're not at advanced risk of falls according to this test, but not quite normal. So can we bump it up? So you can kind of use both numbers as motivation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are the numbers, you know, that we'll use. So this is the one you use to walk them through it. So the nice thing is it's simple, it's scripted, demonstrate it, and then, you know, record them doing it. Any questions about that? Okay, and then data. If people have questions about what we do with information, we just use it to try to make the class better. We use it to educate ourselves. We use it to educate potential grant sources about, like, we normally serve people who are 74 years old on average, or, you know. And there is some trend that shows that people's scores do improve. You know, we can't say that this is real data because of the way we collect it, as you probably know. It's not standardized in any way, but it's just interesting. And one day we are hoping to become evidence-based. It was supposed to have started last year, but you know, like everything. That's it, I think. So the FES one, has anybody not looked at the FES International, FESI, actually? I always say one, but. Okay, so yeah.
I think I don't remember if I did when you first sent the Google Doc page to me a while ago or not. I need to see the page itself.
Okay, yeah, so here it is. I meant to. So this is the form they fill out. It looks like this. And we've just translated the tool into a Google form. And it's how many questions? I think like 16 or something, 12. And it's a really quick Likert score, Likert scale kind of a thing. And so what's really interesting is, you know, do they change over time? Because, and here's something you could help us emphasize, is fear of falling is even more indicative that someone is going to have a subsequent fall than their physical issues. So there are a couple of things that indicate that a future fall might be more likely. And one of them is fear. Fear is a really strong indicator. And so if we can, by helping people get confident and moving better, reduce their fear, maybe we have made a big change. Maybe we'll help, reduce healthcare spending. Who knows, I mean, that's our hope, is that we might not be able to make them amazing at turning quickly, but we might give them some strategies to be safer, and we might reduce their fear. So it's a huge thing. So this is why we do this. So that's really walking through the orientation checklist. So that's in the virtual class resources. Do you all know how to find, if you did not have the link to the folder, do you know how to find it in your own Google Drive? Yeah. So Jonathan knows. So what you would do is, if you just go to drive.google.com, type it in. Over here, you're always going to have this menu.
Oh.
And you'll go to shared with me. And you should have virtual binder, BB4B curriculum shared with me. And that's how you'd find it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So you don't need to go dig out the email with the link in it, because that's just a pain in the butt. You can do it that way too.
That's what I've been doing, and I'm going to use your new suggested way. No.
Yes, it's so much easier. So it took me a while to figure out that there was an easier way than going back and finding the link that somebody shared with me. Because people share a whole lot of stuff, and this is we have like 1 billion folders in here, so it get a little bit heavy. Any other questions about the orientation and how to connect, run it? Don't worry about it. If we didn't feel confident, we wouldn't ask you to help. We want you to get a chance to practice, doing this kind of stuff, because the more you do it, the better you get. And every time I do it, I learn something different. Don't feel afraid to say, oops, I didn't do that right. Let's do it again. People appreciate that you're human, so Jake.
Yeah. So when exactly are we planning on assisting with orientations, or potentially kind of leading something like you just described?
So I am going to connect you with, and I'm going to stop the recording, by the way. Let me stop the share. Let me stop the recording.